talking about women and policy making with one of India's leading female policy enthusiasts and experts, Mitali Nikor. Ms. Nikor, a New Delhi based economist, is a development consultant for the India Resident Mission of the Asian Development Bank and a short term consultant to the World Bank. In addition, she's a global shaper with New Delhi Hub of Global Shapers Community, an initiative of the World Economic Forum. She also manages and publishes on a community and initiative. She also publishes on a regular blog titled Irrational Economics as a columnist of with Times of India, and is a regular economics commentator of on India News Ahead. Focusing on infrastructure development, industries, MSMEs, and economic corridors, her work spans at national and subnational level. Mitali has led research inquiries on infrastructure financing gaps, gender-based discrimination, framing policy, and programmatic and project level interventions. And finally, one of the biggest achievements of Ms. Nikor is the founder of Nikor Associates, an economics research group that raises questions about policies in a wide range of sectors and questions of policy efficacy to better policy design. We are so glad to have you with us, ma'am, and thank you so much for being on A Tryst with Statecraft. My name is Abhishek Surke, and I'm the president of Project Statecraft. Extremely glad to be interviewing you.
The union budget of this year was released about a month ago. So, what are some of the key findings that your gendered analysis of the budget produced? And do you think sufficient importance has been given to women's issues in this year's budget?
So, the first thing I want to say is that I've studied the budgets of some 15 or 16 G20 countries wherever data was available, including India. India has the most detailed, well laid out, standardized, clear, accessible, defined gender budget. It's a beautiful document. So first of all, I think as a country, as a citizenry, we must commend our policymakers in 2000, the ones who actually did this. Lekha Chakravarti is one of them. She's one of the economists who really drove gender budgeting in India for decades and decades. Ashok Lahiri, and there are many others. And they have created a system which is being followed, right? Year in, year out for 15, 16 years, we actually have a separate gender budgeting statement coming out of the union government, which is more than what can be said for many state governments who are not releasing it, right? And many other G20 countries where it's not available, especially developing countries, it's difficult to get it. Difficult to understand how much is being allocated to women. It's like in a single statement, information is not available. So I really, first of all, want to say that it's a wonderful effort that we are doing as a country. Now, where is the budget lacking, especially this year? The gender budget, the size was reduced this year. So last year, what happened was in 2020-21, there was a certain amount that was allocated for the budget, but for the gender budget specifically, and that was increased because of emergency spending. You had schemes like Jan Dhan Yojana, you had Ujjwala Yojana, which were introduced during COVID. And because of that, the quantum of the gender budget went up. So now, this year, it actually came down from that. Because this year they've stopped those, emergency spending schemes. So it's been around 5% of the total expenditure every year for the last 15, 16 years. Last year it went up to 6%, and this year again it's back to 4.4% of the total expenditure. And little less than, so again, usually it has remained around 0.5 to 0.6% of GDP. Last year it crossed 1% of GDP, and this year again it's back to 0.7% of GDP. Another issue, of course, is the dynamism as well. This year, the gender budget is spending on the same 5 ministries, the same 10 schemes that has been for the last 15 years. So we need more and more ministries to step up and say, we'll do a gender program. You can have an industries ministry or a MSME ministry saying, we'll do a gender program. Why only health and education, or why only rural development, right? So Narega can't be the only scheme which is getting the gender budget.
Where if we were to say pinpoint an issue about why expenditure on gender policies or ensuring ensuring a more gender mainstream approach is ensured, where is the problem? Like if we were to say pinpoint one particular level of governance or one particular level of government, and how can that be improved?
I think that the issue lies with the line ministries. They are supposed to have gender budgeting cells. So, these gender budgeting cells have been set up in around 57 ministries. But clearly, the demand for grants was only submitted by 33. So what's happening in the rest of the ministries? And I don't think that people are taking gender budgeting cells as seriously.
So moving on to a more specific issue. We noticed that this recent debate has ensued around the issue of wages for housework after a recently formed political party has promised salaries for housework if voted into power. And we know that majority of unpaid care and household work is undertaken by women. So how do you think we can monetize this vast burden of unpaid domestic labor? Should it be monetized? And how can this invisibility be measured and sort of be made more visible?
Okay, let's do a rapid fire on this. Are you guys ready?
Yeah, sure.
Okay. So, question number one. How many hours do you think your mother works in the house?
5.
Yeah, so
How much?
5. Like, mostly because my mother is working, so probably it's
Okay.
5 inside the house. Yeah.
And Sajusha?
yeah, same. It's pretty much the same.
Same. My mother, I think I have seen her work, like not anymore, but when I was younger, especially, I have seen her work 8 to 10 hours, in the house, because there's cooking, there's cleaning, especially on days, when you don't have house help. We are from a privileged class, so we have house helps who are coming to our home. Now, think about the house help's house. First, she works on domestic tasks outside, and then she does her own house also, right? So these are hours and hours of work, right? There's no doubt about it. Now, let's ask another question. How many hours does your dad work outside in the office?
8, 9.
Eight,
Yeah, 8 to 9 hours a day.
plus how much at home?
2 to 3.
One, 1 hour max. Yeah.
So what is happening over here? Are you guys seeing this? Are you seeing the imbalance? Right. The imbalance, the debate always focuses on what? On the hours that the woman is doing at home. The debate never focuses on the fact that men are not doing anything at home and women are not doing anything outside. This division of labor is gender. Like if the state were to pay for it, like let's say if the case was made that, in the case like when Tamil Nadu was talking about it, let's say Kamal Hassan is going to go to every house and ask, Aaj, how many hours did you work? How are you going to like observe it, right? It is a very important points that he raised, and I absolutely love the fact that people like him are talking about the disparity between male and female contribution to household work and to personal work. If you think that women are not being able to work because of housework, and also if they are not being able to work in general, and you know they are low income women and they need financial support, give a direct benefit transfer. Just give cash. Jan Dhan Yojana also did the same thing. They gave cash directly, no strings attached. Right? Don't say that we are paying you for housework. We are giving you a cash transfer because you belong to a low income household, and this will tide you over hard times, and it is in your name, so that you own that asset and your agency and decision making power within the household improves. Great solution. easy to implement, nothing to monitor, and you achieved your final objective of putting money in the hands of the woman to improve her financial independence. Second option, what is the second option? Become an influencer and openly talk about, as a man, the number of hours of work that you do in your house and what all do you do. Honestly, I feel like in the corporate sector, this is something that all leaders, managers should do in their teams, with their teams. CEOs should do this. Politicians should do this. That, oh, today I'm taking a day off because my wife is going to work because there's an important meeting in her office, and I'm going to stay home with my kid because he has an exam tomorrow and I have to help him prepare.
This is a conclusion question. I wanted to talk to you about the theme of this year's International Women's Day, which is choose to challenge. So, as a concluding remark, what do you think about this year's theme, and what are the things that women have to choose to challenge, and the world needs to challenge uh, in this year to make sure that we have a more gender equal, a more equal world going forward?
I think honestly, the first thing is that we have to stop expecting only women to challenge. Just let women be. Honestly, I think we have to choose to challenge just gender norms, all of us, men, women, everybody, all genders. We have to choose to challenge just set notions and let people be peaceful. If they're choosing something, let them have that choice. So we have to choose to challenge any bans, we have to choose to challenge any limits to freedom, we have to choose to challenge any limits to freedom of speech, freedom of expression, freedom of any kind of choice that you want to make of who you are, and just be yourself and be free, be peaceful. As long as you're not attacking someone else or you're not trampling on anyone else's fundamental rights or human rights, you're good. That's enough. I don't think people can do more than that, and I think that's the one thing that the pandemic has taught us. We can do much more with much less. So we should choose to challenge the old ways of doing things and start doing more in a new way.